I'm tired. Should I be exercising or not? That is what we are going to be answering today. I know so many of you at this stage of life, especially if you're going through the stages of menopause, will be often struggling with your energy levels. So this can throw up the question, when we're tired, when we're feeling low in energy, should we be pushing ourselves to exercise? Should we be resting? Now, the reason we bring this up is because we know exercise, training, is what is going to help us protect our bone health as we get older and as those hormones drop as well. So today I'm going to be answering 3 reasons why you should train when you are tired and when fatigue or energy levels are low, and 3 reasons why you should not be exercising or training when your energy levels are low. So we'll be covering off those 3 areas, 3 arguments for and against today. So I'm here to support because I'm all about you living your strongest and best life. And we can do that by supporting our life, building our bones and creating that strong future. So let's get started. 3 reasons why, even when you're tired, even when energy levels are low, that you're going to benefit from getting in some exercise. Okay, so firstly, you can actually get a build-up and a release of energy from moving. So yes, even if you are very tired, even if you just feel like you could not get off the couch right now, and you feel absolutely floored, maybe at the end of the day, then you will benefit from some moderate amounts of exercise. So we're not saying you need to be going into these HIIT classes. We're not saying you need to be getting yourself into a sweaty mess in the gym, but getting moving and even doing those resistance training exercises, they can actually be lower on that fatiguing side of things when we compare it with aerobic activities like running and doing aerobics classes. So when we're lifting weights, we're often getting that opportunity to get our muscles stronger, but we're taking that rest in between. So this can actually be very energy building for you. And the reason that is, a few reasons. Firstly, sometimes we just need to get moving to wake the body up. So by taking even just a moderately fast walk, a bit of a power walk, 10 minutes outside, this is going to get your circulation going. And with the circulation of our blood cells around our body, that's delivering oxygen to our brain. So you know how you've had that sitting down for a bit too long, maybe you've had an afternoon or a whole day at your desk, maybe you've been on Zoom calls all day, you've hardly moved and you're absolutely wiped, even though you know physically you haven't really done very much all day. So this is because your circulation just hasn't been going around at the rate you need it to. So getting out for that quick burst of movement, getting the blood flowing, it's going to get that oxygen through to your brain as well. And another more longer term benefit, if you keep showing up for yourself, your body has to adapt to the exercise you do. So for example, if we're building muscle through lifting weights, then your body has to build more energy powerhouses. So those of you into your biology will know these powerhouses as your mitochondria. So these are the little energy cells within your body, and they are tasked with producing and releasing energy at times you need it. So if you find yourself having to sprint for a bus, that is when your mitochondria can pump out that energy, that ATP for those of you that like your science, and they're going to pump that out and release it and activate that energy so you can pull out that sprint. And guess what? The more muscle you build, the more of these mitochondria or powerhouses you will build, meaning there is more opportunity and availability of energy levels. So if you've ever met those people, if you're not one yourself, that do exercise on a regular and consistent basis, have you ever noticed they're just full of beans? They just seem to have spare energy. So that is because they have more of these energy powerhouses, and because we're stressing our muscles in the gym, doing things that are harder than everyday life, then that makes everyday life easier. And just imagine this, if you have to do a workout every single day with no rest at all, then you would be absolutely wiped out. So if you think about you're not doing any training, then that makes your daily life the gym workout. Because if you're not doing anything harder, then your workout is your life and you don't get to have a rest from that. So this is one way to really protect yourself and boost those energy levels. So yeah, so getting that exercise in, particularly resistance training, because it's not always as fatiguing. We can manipulate how many reps you do, how many sets, how heavy a weight you lift. All these things can be manipulated to manage that fatigue level and actually boost your energy. To point 2, reasons for exercising even when energy levels feel low. Let's think about reasons energy levels can feel low, and that can be because we're dealing with a high level of stress. As I said before, if you have got a chock-a-block diary, if your work and your career is taking a lot from you, and power to you, I absolutely give so much to my work because I love it. But yeah, that can take your energy, that can build up the stress, even with good things. I have to admit, I may have slightly overcommitted myself just recently, giving myself a lot of additional work to do. And I love it, but yeah, it has taken my energy. However, when we have this build-up of stress in the body, we need to find a way to release it. And doing the exercise, whether it's walking, the power walking, whether it's lifting weights, this is a great energy release for you. There's actually quite a few studies on lifting weights and the stress relief and the boost you get to mental health. Another reason that the stress relief happens as well and the mood changes can occur is because you get that release of endorphins into the body. So these are your sort of happy hormones, that good feeling. If you have ever gone for a run and feel that runner's high, that's what we're talking about. So yeah, you get that endorphin release, and also some up and coming research, which I need to do a little bit more reading on, and maybe we'll cover this in more detail in the future. But by lifting the weights, by consistently doing the exercise, your body starts to look forward to the next time because it remembers that you've got an endorphin release when you did that exercise. So even just the thought over time of doing that training where you got that buzz, that can actually lead you to start to look forward to it. But it all starts with showing up first, and that often means showing up before the energy levels are there for it. Of course, we're going to moderate the amount of training we do, how we do it, to make sure it's at a safe level and the right level for you, so you're not just so fatigued you can't live your life. Because I'm not all about getting people leaving the gym, leaving their workout a sweaty mess and having to spend the rest of the day on the couch. Absolutely not about that at all. We need to do it at the right level for you. This is what I program in our Strong Bones Club. We get this at the right level so that we're lifting the right amount of weights, that we're lifting safely, supporting our body. We're not here to punish, we're here to nourish. So that is point 2 covered off. I'm ready for the third reason, and you'll like this one, for why we can exercise and should consider training in spite of our low energy levels. Which low energy levels, they occur especially through perimenopause and throughout that menopause transition, because we have the fluctuating of hormones. We have that estrogen drop in, and that estrogen and our testosterone are responsible for a lot of the energy that we feel, that va-va-voom, that revitalized feeling that we had when we were younger. If you notice that's dropping off a bit as the hormones are dropping off, then that is why. But you can recover some of this through exercise. So this third reason then, something else that's impacted by your changing hormones, is your sleep, amount and quality. And there is lots and lots of evidence there for the impact of training and improved sleep. So if you are struggling with your sleep and currently your activity is not all that high and you're maybe quite inactive or quite sedentary, then you will absolutely benefit from including more movement. So it can be training in the gym, it can be training with resistance bands, it can just be as simple as committing to a 10-minute walk every day, rain or shine, just to get yourself started, because that will start the process of improving your energy levels, improving your sleep. And if you improve your sleep, those energy levels, they're going to start coming back up again, aren't they? A great way to combat some of this hormone-related sleep disturbance. Like I say, we've got our estrogen dropping off, progesterone is a big one. When this starts to drop, this is what the biggest impact on sleep for many of the ladies that I'm coaching. So absolutely having a look at that for you and get that sleep improved, then you'll get it more sleep, more energy, and we're winning. Okay, so that is 3 reasons why we can use our exercise to increase and enhance our energy levels. So what do we need to think about as when are the times when we should actually take that step back and take that rest? So I'm going to caveat this now before we move on. This is where it's going to require some self-awareness and some self-honesty. because we all know that feeling where we're low in motivation. Motivation doesn't stick around, we cannot rely on it. So when we're feeling like we don't feel like doing the exercise, we need to have this check-in with ourselves. What is the reason? Because if it's just that you're not feeling like it, well, we already know you don't feel like it, especially if energy is low. But we can have a think about what's going on. Have you been exercising really consistently to quite a good intensity, and you've been working hard for a number of weeks, back to back, you've got a lot going on, and you've been doing maybe quite a challenging training cycle, perhaps. Maybe you've just trained for an event and performed at an event. So if you've just done that and you're feeling exhausted and fatigued, then this is where the answer may be that rest is needed in this case. So really need to evaluate. If energy levels are low, look at what your activity really has been. If you've been very active, maybe more active than usual, then yes, maybe the answer there is this is not the time to train. And the reason you want to consider this is because if you're already in a very fatigued state, you're in an exhausted state, for example, after an event, a race, maybe a competition if you compete, or even just a very consistent period of exercise, maybe more consistent than you've ever been. Like many of my Strong Bones Club ladies find that they've never had consistency in their training before, and then they find consistency by coming to the Strong Bones Club sessions. Then they do find actually there comes a point where they do need to take that natural rest because they've been training consistently and challenging themselves. And we need to take this rest at that point, because if we continue on at that same level, then that risk of injury will go up. Because if we're fatigued, if we're tired, if we've been up all night, perhaps with a child, grandchild, if someone's kept you up, maybe the dogs kept you up all night, if that's happened, then you might not have your full concentration level. So yeah, this is me today. I had a very late and disturbed night last night, so I was showing up to sessions this morning a little bit more in a fatigued state in comparison to usual. I would normally do my training session shortly after that, but I have postponed it to later today because I just know I was not going to perform those exercises to their proper level with the proper concentration, and that was going to potentially put myself at risk of injury for doing that. And I have experienced that before. About last year, I had a very tough training cycle, did not listen to my body on the fatigue levels and injured myself during that training session. It took me 6 weeks to recover properly. So it is absolutely worth it if you know that these fatigue levels are due to lots of physical taxation, maybe even a lot of high stress levels, and we just want to choose the right level of exercise. We just need to be mindful that that injury risk can be higher if it is because that physical fatigue is there. And again, point 2, we will see that drop in performance. So we cannot perform at a high level consistently without some rest period and some reduction in training level. This is why we have training programs. This is why we will program to help to improve muscle tone, to improve muscle building. We will build up that intensity, which can be whether we lift heavier weights, whether we do more reps, whether we take less rest during that training session. So we will build up essentially the difficulty of a training session over many weeks. And there comes a period where we see those improvements, the muscles building, the energy is building, we've got improvements in performance, improvements in skills, but there comes a point where that starts to drop off as we get fatigued. So at this bit at the top here, we've got that stretch where we're stretching, we're reaching, where by making those improvements, we're giving ourselves that extra push because that's how we get better and make progress. But then we need to take it down a notch just to make sure we're managing that fatigue so that we don't just push ourselves too far into injury and that reduced performance, because reduced performance can increase the fatigue, increase that injury risk, and again, can have impacts on your immune system, which is going through next into point 3. Do we actually need a proper rest? So like I say, overtraining is a thing. So if you are an athlete that has many training sessions to complete, maybe you're training for a triathlon, you've got multiple sports that you need to be making improvements on, maybe you're doing CrossFit and there's lots of skills that you've got to practice, you could potentially go over into this overtraining situation. It's very individual as to how much it takes for this to happen. This is where it's really helpful to have a coach on board that can help you evaluate how you're performing, how those energy levels are. This is something I monitor with all of my clients, seeing how the energy levels are, what the performance is. Are we making those gains with the weights? Is it still being performed to a good standard? Because if that starts to drop off, then we know actually maybe it's time to be taking a rest. Sometimes you might hear it called a deload. So we will program those things in because, again, when we start to overtrain and dip into exhaustion, we're increasing our stress levels, which is not good for the bones. So yes, exercise, training, all good for bone building, putting the stress through the bones, but it's all down to the recovery when we actually build that strength. So if we're not recovering, we're just going to continue to stress and stress those tissues. And as we know, throughout perimenopause and beyond, our bones start to break down faster than the build up. So we're always breaking down, but we're also always building up. But when those hormones drop, we're likely to be breaking down faster than we're able to build back. And if we're not taking the rest, the stress on our body and our immune system is going to mean we're not having the time to repair the little bits of damage we do through that training. So it's super important that we do take those rest days at the appropriate amount for you. And again, tapering off that training at times doesn't mean stop training, it just means making it easier in some cases. Sometimes we have a natural break, maybe there's a holiday planned and you're naturally going to be doing less for a week or two. This can be really helpful. But if you're somebody that is very, very consistent and you don't have any planned breaks or holidays, then it's worth considering to make sure your rest is planned in, that your rest is rest, whether it's just light walks, whether you're getting a sauna, maybe going for a sports massage, doing some real restorative things. And also the mind work as well, your journaling, your gratitudes. These are all things that can really support your rest and your recovery. Taking care of your nutrition, getting enough protein in, as we were talking about the other day, making sure those nutrients are on board to help your body repair itself. This will speed up your repair, so you're not needing to take lots and lots of time out. But pushing yourself too far, and this is where the self-awareness and honesty comes in. And again, if you've got a coach that will help you to determine whether this is just a lack of motivation and not feeling like it, or a genuine need for rest, which is so important for that muscle and bone build. 3 reasons to exercise in spite of low energy and 3 reasons not to do that. So I hope you found that informative, helpful, and I hope that has inspired you to understand how you can boost your energy and your bones with exercise and when the time is to pull back. So thank you for joining me today. So we have another installment of our live done today. Tomorrow